Hi, I'm Seth, and I have the strength to push a giant boulder up a hill. Metaphorically, I mean. Welcome to the good world.
1, 2, 3.
So come on into a place that is fun. I'll be your friend and you can be mine. The world is a stream of constant bullshit, but that doesn't mean there's not a whole lot of good shit. You start with believing we can make something different. Let's build a world that is good.
This is a show for adults. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Good World. My name is Seth. I am an interfaith seminary student with a background in data science and comedy. It's a very normal combination. Thank you for joining me today. We are back, baby. We're here. I said in my last episode of 2024 that I'd be back in January or February, and it turns out the answer is February, and I think that's just fine. I was taking a break to enjoy the holidays, had some family time, took a vacation, finished up my schoolwork. I have done all of those things. I will find out this week if I get approved for ordination, which is exciting. Let's knock on some wood. But in the meantime, I wanted to make things again. And friend, let me tell you, when you have stopped making things, it is really hard to start making things again. At the end of last year, I was really in a good rhythm. I was cranking out 2 videos a week. My body was used to the pattern. My brain was used to the pattern. Maybe some of you were used to the pattern. And now I feel a little bit like Sisyphus. If you're not familiar with Sisyphus, he's a guy in ancient Greek mythology. So he angers Zeus, who's kind of the main god, not a good guy to anger, which is unfortunate because he gets angry a lot. But anyway, so Sisyphus angered Zeus, and so Zeus had him killed. And so Sisyphus goes down to the underworld, right? And he's supposed to be dying. He goes to the underworld, and he cheats his way out of death by tricking death. Death says, okay, hey, put these chains on, and we're going to go to the underworld. I'm going to pull you by these chains. And Sisyphus is like, I don't really understand how chains work. Can you show me how to use chains? And Death is like, oh, that's weird, but sure. And so Death puts on the chains, and he's like, see, you do it like this. And Sisyphus claps closed the lock and chains up Death and runs away. And so now Sisyphus has pissed off Zeus, and he's pissed off Hades, who's the god of the underworld. And then the next time he's about to die, he comes up with a new scheme. He tells his wife, he says, honey, I love you. What I need you to do when I die is throw my naked corpse into the public square to prove that you love me. And she's like, that's a really weird way to prove I love you, but okay, I love you, so I will. And so she does. And when he gets to the underworld, he tells the goddess Persephone, look, my wife threw my corpse, my naked corpse, into the public square. She hated me so much. I deserve a proper burial. You have to let me go back. And Persephone is like, yeah, okay, it sounds like you were wronged. And so Sisyphus cheats Death again. And so by this point, he now has at least 3 gods mad at him. And so they try to send him back to the underworld. He refuses to go. So the god Hermes now has to get involved. And he drags Sisyphus to the underworld, and he succeeds. And so finally, Sisyphus is dead, right? And the gods are like, oh man, that guy was a dick. We need to take him down a peg. And so they punish him. They punish Sisyphus. They punish him by saying, hey, Sisyphus, you have to roll this giant boulder up to the top of this big, steep hill. And then they use magic so that every time Sisyphus is almost at the top of the hill, the boulder gets away from him and rolls back to the bottom, and he has to start over, and it sucks. And that's what people know Sisyphus for being this guy who has to push a boulder up a hill only to have it roll to the bottom again and again and again and again. And if you hear the term a Sisyphean task, maybe you've heard that, that's the metaphor, right? Whatever you're trying to do is something you have to do, but it's also something that feels a little pointless, because every time you think you're getting to the top of the hill, the boulder rolls down, you end up having to start over. And so that is what I have felt like for the last week, trying to motivate myself to sit down here in my shed and start making videos again. I felt like I pushed a boulder up a hill in October, November, December. I was getting a good rhythm pushing that boulder, and now I'm back at the bottom of the hill. And I also realize that no matter how many videos I make, no matter how consistent I get with this, even if I were to end up with millions of subscribers, which would be nice, but right now I have 100 and change, even if I do all of that, I will never actually reach the top of the hill, right? There is no top of the hill. I will always have more ideas. I'll always have more things to say. I promise you this whole thing in here doesn't stop. It just, there's always more. And even if it did, the experience of being human doesn't just dry up, right? And that's kind of what I'm doing here, is talking about my perspective on the human experience. And so the more I thought about it, the more I realized that basically anything we want to do, anything that gives us meaning and purpose, it's usually going to have some element of being like Sisyphus, right? We're often going to be building momentum, and then something comes and interrupts us, and then we have to start over again and build new momentum. And in fact, the things that are most worthwhile for us in our lives are often the things where we have to build that new momentum over and over and over, right? In December, I made an episode with my friends Naomi Ekperigin and Lance Rubin, and we talked about how so much of the work of being an artist of any kind is pushing through the days when you don't feel like it. But the boulder at the bottom of the hill is not just a single day. It's usually a string of days. I haven't made one of these videos in more than a month, close to 2 months at this point. Is that right? Yeah, 1 month. Well, month and a half. We'll call it month and a half. But so for the last week, I've been done with the other things I needed to do, and I've just been staring at the boulder. Boulder. But my work is to get that boulder rolling, even if I know it's going to end up at the bottom of the hill again. And this actually feels like a really useful metaphor, because one of the things I did while I was offline for a month and change is I went to a meditation retreat at Deer Park Monastery in Southern California. And I've mentioned Deer Park before, I'm pretty sure. In fact, it's very relevant also because my next episode is going to be a conversation with two friends about mindfulness and meditation. And one of them is a former monk who I met while he was living at Deer Park. So think about that idea of meditation for a moment and the boulder. And we're going to take a quick break right here. But when we come back, we'll talk a little more about that.
Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe.
Friends, just a quick reminder that if you are enjoying what you are seeing or watching, please don't forget to click the like button, subscribe to this channel if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on Spotify or Apple or AntennaPod, which is the app that I use to listen to podcasts that most people I know have never heard of, but it's a good app. Wherever you are listening to this or watching this, please subscribe. You can comment on this episode or write a review if you like what you're hearing. And if you don't like what you're hearing, please keep your opinions to yourself. No, I'm just kidding. I value you. I do. I value you, whatever you believe in and whatever you have to say. And I appreciate you being here. That part, I mean, genuinely, I really do appreciate you being here. If you want to support me financially, you can sponsor me at patreon.com/goodworld, or you can buy some merch like this t-shirt, which is available at goodworld.love. All my content, merch, whatever, all the links you need are all at goodworld.love. You can just go there and find what you're looking for. So thank you. Okay, so I was talking about Sisyphus and being at the bottom of the hill with a boulder, and I was about to say that this is how I think about meditation. And I think a lot of people have gotten the wrong idea about meditation. I say this from conversations I've had with friends, and also honestly from what I used to think meditation was before I learned more about it. And usually when people talk about meditation, they often talk about quieting your mind or staying present. And what I find in my own practice is that is absolutely not what I am doing in meditation. So to be clear, those are the benefits of meditation, but they are not the practice of meditation. Saying meditation is about staying present is like saying lifting weights is about building your muscles. It's not wrong, but it describes the outcome, not the process, right? If you go to the gym, you're not just standing there like, build muscles, build. Like the process of lifting weights is picking up heavy things and putting them down again. The benefit is stronger muscles. The benefit of meditation is quieting your mind and staying present. But here's what I do when I meditate. I sit and I listen to my breath. That's it. I sit and I listen. And as I inhale, I think breathing in. And as I exhale, I think breathing out. But also, I'm human. So what that ends up actually being is breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in. What's the rest of my schedule look like today? Do I have to take the dogs out? No, I did that in the morning. Susie's taking the dogs out in this afternoon. I wonder how Susie's feeling. She was feeling kind of sick yesterday. Man, remember when I got COVID in November? That wasn't fun. That's what my brain does. That is very definitely not quieting my mind, and it is not staying present. But that is an accurate description of what happens in my brain when I'm meditating. Often it's longer than that, right? But I'm sort of giving you a slice. But the practice of meditation is going, remember when I had COVID in November? That wasn't fun. I didn't feel well. Oh, hello, brain. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Right? The practice of meditation isn't getting the boulder to the top of the hill. The practice of meditation is starting to push the boulder from the bottom. It's starting again and again and again without judgment. Right? We don't need to get angry at ourselves that the boulder is at the bottom of the hill. We know that is a very natural part of the process. And in fact, every time the boulder goes to the bottom of the hill, every time our minds wander, that is an opportunity. Because the best practice comes in those moments when we have to start over. When I notice my mind wandering, I smile. Because it's a happy moment, and also because smiling rewards your brain. Like, your brain and your body are connected in such a way that when you smile, your brain fires the little happy chemicals, oxytocin, I'm going to say. That could be wrong. But let's go with oxytocin, right? You smile and your brain is like, okay, we're happy. This is good. Good feeling. And that's a way of rewarding myself. It's a small reward, but it's a reward that over time, with enough work and practice, reinforces things. And so I notice my mind wandering. I smile. And by doing that over and over, I'm getting better at noticing my mind wandering. There's not really a reason to get frustrated by it, right? The noticing is the best part of it. Meditation isn't mind quieting practice. It's mind wandering noticing practice. Mind wandering noticing practice. It's a good phrase. So there's a story in this book. It's called Why Buddhism is True. It's by Robert Wright. It's a great book, by the way. The point of it isn't about metaphysics or God or what happens when we die. There's nothing about reincarnation. So when you hear Why Buddhism is True, you should understand that it's not talking about any of that. The point of the book is that Buddhism's diagnosis of the human condition is incredibly on point. And it's worth listening to, even if we belong to other religious traditions, even if we're not religious at all, which is honestly how I ended up with meditation and is even how I ended up going to interfaith seminary, even though I think the way we usually talk about God is almost definitely a story we made up, right? If you had to put me in a box, it would be kind of atheist, agnostic, open to learning. I find there's a lot of wisdom to take away from every religious tradition, even if we don't concern ourselves with the dogma. I think the dogma is where a lot of things go wrong. The philosophy is where we can learn a lot. And so anyway, in this book, Why Buddhism is True, the author Robert Wright talks about going to a meditation retreat. And he notices at this retreat, his mind is wandering a lot. And at one point in the retreat, he gets to meet one-on-one with a meditation teacher, and he gets to ask some questions. And he comes to the teacher, and he says, I'm really frustrated because I keep noticing my mind wandering. And the teacher says, oh, that's good, you're noticing. And Wright says, yeah, but it happens a lot. And the teacher says, oh, even better, you're noticing a lot. Right? Meditation isn't mind quieting practice. It's mind wandering noticing practice. You are practicing noticing your mind wandering. If I'm sitting somewhere for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or even 45 minutes like they do at Deer Park, and if I'm doing that, I will find myself at the bottom of that hill many times, right? I will notice, oh, my mind is so far from my breath. But I'll just come back to it. It's just like being at the bottom of that hill. And this metaphor also applies to building a meditation practice or a creative practice or honestly any kind of practice. It's all the same thing. If I go a week without meditating or a month even, I'm just back at the bottom of that hill, right? It's the same practice. It's just one is sitting there for half an hour or 10 minutes or however long, and one of them is done over the course of longer periods of time, days, weeks. Some habits we practice over the course of years, right? And it's all the same pattern of behavior over and over again. And so if I'm back at the bottom of the hill, well, hey, now I get a chance to start pushing that boulder again. And if I take a month or two off from making podcast episodes, I'm back at the bottom of the hill. And right now, today, I'm back at the bottom of the hill. And now I get a chance to start pushing the boulder up again. And once it starts rolling, it's actually really satisfying because that is where the magic happens, right? The restarting is the practice. The momentum is the magic. And then the boulder at the bottom of the hill it's an opportunity. And it's really easy for us to get annoyed at ourselves when our consistency falls off, right? And we're taught and trained by our culture to see it as failure. In the story of Sisyphus, the boulder rolling to the bottom is punishment, and not just any punishment. It's supposed to be really, really severe punishment because the gods hated that dude. Right? They were so annoyed with him by that point. So they want him to be frustrated by almost achieving his goals and having to start over again and again and again. But our most worthwhile goals never just end with us on top of a hill living happily ever after. Right? I mentioned the episode with Naomi and Lance. Both of them are great examples of this. So about a decade ago, Lance published what I think was his first book. Den Little's Death Date is the name of the book. Came out in, I think, I looked it up, I think 2016, right? And so he got to have a nice little boulder at the top of the hill moment. He was working on this book, and then the book published, and he was like, oh, that's cool, I'm at the top of the hill with the boulder. And then he started writing his next book, right? Naomi she's a comedy writer, she's a stand-up comic, she does lots of different things. But I remember she had a special, I think on Comedy Central, some years back. Don't remember how long ago. And then a few years ago, she had a Netflix special. Those were two separate specials with different material. And after both of those things, she ended up right back at the bottom of the hill, right? Maybe it was a new hill with a new boulder. Maybe she had gotten the boulder to the top of the hill and then saw another hill in front of her that she had to push the boulder up. But it's still the same thing, right? And the practice is still getting that next boulder moving up that next hill. And so much of our lives is about facing that moment when we find ourselves at the bottom of that hill. And look, it can feel really frustrating. I don't want to pretend it's not. Right? Even sort of sticking with meditation as the example, even with regular meditation, there are days that my mind is all over the place. And I might feel a little annoyed about it. But just because I might feel a moment of frustration doesn't mean I need to turn it into a narrative. The feeling of frustration is real, but the story of what I'm doing is I'm getting practice. Right? Back to the book, Why Buddhism is True. Wright, the author, says, we build stories on stories on stories, and the problem with the stories begins at their foundation. And so he talks about mindfulness as a practice that enables us, if we choose, to separate truth from fabrication. We as a culture have all of these stories that have been drilled into us without our even realizing it, and we just accept them as true. And with practice, we can learn to pull them out one at a time and say, okay, here's this story. I don't actually think that one's true. I think, I learned this when I was in elementary school and it just kind of stayed in my head. Throw that one away. Okay, here's another story. This one says that alligators are dangerous if you swim too close to them. That one, I think that one's true, right? You can keep that story. We don't have to accept every story we've been taught. But if we never examine them, we are accepting all of them. And so we don't have to accept the story that says being at the bottom of the hill is a failure. We can write our own story that reminds us that the bottom of the hill is where everything starts. It's a beginning. And sometimes that means starting again. Right now I'm starting again and again and again and again, right? Life is about starting again and again and again and again. Even when it feels hard. And even when we're tired or hurt, maybe we just need to take a break and heal up. We need that sometimes, right? Just because we need to push the boulder at some point doesn't mean we have to do it right this second. We can take a break. I took a break for a month and it was good. It was restorative. There's a different ancient Greek myth about the Titan Prometheus who taught humans to use fire. The gods did not like that either. A lot of Greek mythology is just the gods getting angry about things. And so the gods punished Prometheus by tying him to a post and having an eagle come and eat his liver, which is gross and intense. And it gets worse because overnight his liver would grow back, and so the eagle could come again the next day and eat his liver again. And so Prometheus's punishment was to have his liver eaten every single day by an eagle forever. It's a pretty intense punishment. So the reason I'm talking about this, I recently heard someone describe their day as new liver, same eagle, right? There are days that feel like that. And sometimes we feel that way and we need to take a break. It's okay to take a break. In fact, it is very important to take a break when you can. We are not wired or built to work as much as our culture forces us to. Honestly, it's a way we're all kept in servitude. It's a way that we are very much not free. It's incredibly unhealthy for us as individuals and as a society, and we need more rest and more vacation in general. That's honestly a whole different topic for a different day. It shows up some in some of my previous episodes. Also, another different topic for a different day. Wow, did the Greek gods really like torture? Like, there are some serious sociopaths up on Mount Olympus. That's just two of the stories. There are a lot of stories. That was two of them. And so, look, I don't know that there's a way to reframe the punishment of Prometheus. Some stories just are what they are. But Sisyphus, look, maybe the gods saw it as a punishment, but for us, it's an opportunity. Being at the bottom of that hill is an opportunity. And so when we find ourselves at the bottom of the hill, hands against a boulder, looking up at the path ahead, that is a moment to smile. Because that moment is something we share with every human being who has ever lived. And that moment is how we grow strong. Okay, we're going to end there for today. This is my first video back. I don't need to go on for an hour. Friends, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you'll come back. I hope you'll tell your friends. And thank you for being here. We're going to wrap up with our usual little song. Well, thank you, friend, for your visit today. Now it's time we both go on our way. The world will still be insane tomorrow, but don't let that fill your heart with sorrow. You can thrive in a desert, just ask a saguaro. Please give to my Patreon. Capitalism is fun. Let's build a world that is good. This is a show for adults. Bye, friends. Thanks so much.